she didn't just win the game. She rewrote the history books while doing it, and by the time the final buzzer sounded, the head coach on the other bench looked like a man who genuinely did not know what to say. Stick around, because this one game had a milestone, a near collapse, and a post-game press conference that tells you everything about where this rivalry is headed next. Caitlin Clark walked into Portland on a 5-game winning streak and walked out with a stat line that most players never touch in an entire career. But here's the twist, the game almost slipped away in the final minutes, and what happened after the final whistle might be even more interesting than what happened on the court. So don't scroll past this one, because the ending of this story is not what you think. Before we get into the breakdown, if you want to keep up with everything happening around Caitlin Clark and the Fever this season, hit that subscribe button right now. This is the kind of season where something historic seems to happen every single week, and if you're not subscribed, you are going to keep missing these moments before anyone else covers them. So subscribe, turn on notifications, and let's break down exactly what happened in Portland. Friday night, the Indiana Fever traveled to Moda Center to take on the Portland Fire, and this was already a big test. The Fever came in at 18-10, riding a 4-game winning streak, and they left with their 5th straight win, closing it out 112-98. But the real story of the night belonged to Caitlin Clark. She finished with 26 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists, the 4th triple-double of her career and her first of this season. That alone would be enough to headline the night. But here's where it gets bigger. During the game, Clark also reached 1,500 career points, and in doing so, she became the fastest player in WNBA history to reach 1,500 points and 500 assists, hitting that mark in just her 78th career game. Think about that for a second. A record that has stood through legends of this league, broken by a player still early in her career. And she wasn't even the only one making history that night. Kelsey Mitchell matched Clark with 26 points of her own, and along the way she hit her 749th career three-pointer, passing Tina Thompson for 6th on the WNBA's all-time three-point list. She also extended her streak of 20-plus point games to 13 straight, tying Diana Taurasi for the second-longest streak like that in league history. 2 milestones, one night, and most fans watching probably didn't even realize how much history was happening in real time. Now here's the part where things almost went sideways, and this is the part one really want you to pay attention to. The Fever looked completely in control heading into the fourth quarter. They had pulled ahead by 18 points in the third, taking a commanding 90-72 lead, and early in the fourth, that lead stretched out even further. At that point, this looked like it was going to be a comfortable finish. But Portland was not done. Bridget Carleton, who finished with 26 points of her own for the Fire, caught fire from three-point range down the stretch, and the Fire put together a run that cut the deficit all the way down to 7 points with just a few minutes left on the clock. Suddenly, a game that looked completely decided had every fan in that building on their feet, and Indiana's coaching staff had to burn timeouts just to settle things back down. That is the part of this game that doesn't show up in the box score, and it's exactly why you can't judge a final score without knowing how it actually played out. The Fever had to survive a legitimate fourth-quarter push from a Portland team that refused to fold, and they did it by leaning right back on Clark and Mitchell down the stretch to close the door. So now let's get into what happened after the buzzer, because the post-game press conference from Portland's side tells you a lot about how difficult this matchup actually is. Portland head coach Alex Sarama addressed the media after the loss, and the tone was very much what you'd expect from a first-year expansion team that had just gone toe-to-toe with one of the best offenses in the league before ultimately falling short. Sarama and Portland forward Bridget Carleton both fielded questions about the turnovers down the stretch, the difficulty of containing Indiana's guards in one-on-one situations, and the challenge of trying to slow down a Fever offense that has now scored triple digits in 5 straight games. And that's really the story underneath the story here. This wasn't just Caitlin Clark going off against an overmatched opponent. Portland made a real push. They shot the ball well as a team, they got quality looks, and for a stretch in the fourth quarter, they had every reason to believe they could complete the comeback. It just wasn't enough to overcome a Fever team that, right now, might be the hottest offense in the entire league. Here's what makes this stretch even more remarkable for Indiana. 5 straight wins. 5 straight games scoring at least 100 points, the longest streak like that in WNBA history. Caitlin Clark now owns the most triple-doubles by a guard in league history. And this all comes at a moment when Indiana has completely reshaped the conversation around what this roster is capable of doing on a nightly basis. So where does this leave the Fever heading into their next matchup? They're set to close out this road trip against the Minnesota Lynx, the league's leading team, in what's going to be one of the toughest tests they've faced all season. If Indiana can carry this same offensive rhythm into Minneapolis, this winning streak might turn into something the entire league has to start taking seriously as a real threat come playoff time. But if Portland's fourth-quarter run proved anything, it's that this Fever team is not unbeatable yet. They can be pushed. They can be pressured. And if a first-year expansion team can claw back 18 points against them, imagine what a team like Minnesota, already sitting atop the standings, might be able to do with that same blueprint. That's the real question heading into the next game, and it's exactly why you don't want to miss what happens next. Is this Fever winning streak about to hit its toughest test yet, or is Caitlin Clark about to add another milestone to a season that's already rewriting the record book? I'll be breaking down that Minnesota matchup as soon as it happens, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. Let me know in the comments, do you think the Fever can keep this streak alive against Minnesota, or is this the game where it finally comes to an end? Drop your prediction below, hit subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one.